Game 80 of the Toronto Maple Leafs regular season. We got 2 left here following tonight's game against the Carolina Hurricanes in Carolina, the second night of a back-to-back with a 5 p.m. puck drop for the Toronto Maple Leafs. We'll dig into today's lineup. We'll talk about who has been recalled here, who's playing with who, what we're getting for goaltending, and our best bet. All a presentation of Bet365. Before we can get into anything and get into our line combos, today's game is a little bit important here. Obviously, there's some other areas that need to happen elsewhere with other teams as the Toronto Maple Leafs try to lock up first place in the Atlantic Division. So just a brief overview to give people an idea of what has to happen here today for the Toronto Maple Leafs to walk away from this Sunday guaranteed first in the Atlantic Division. There's 2 possible outcomes. They both rely on 2 things happening separately. 1, Tampa Bay loses in regulation, and Toronto gets at least 1 point out of the game today. Goes to overtime, they lose, that's fine. They get a point. And Tampa Bay loses in regulation, they lock up first. So Tampa gets no points, the Leafs get 1. Done. The other one would be that Tampa Bay loses in an overtime or shootout fashion. They get 1 point, but the Toronto Maple Leafs win in any fashion. So if Tampa gets to overtime or a shootout and loses and only gets 1 point, and the Maple Leafs win in regulation, or the Maple Leafs win in overtime and they get 2, that's it. You lock up first in the Atlantic. So those are the possible outcomes for today, possible ways for this Maple Leafs team to lock up first in the Atlantic Division. Let's go now to what we've got for the lines, and just being transparent here on the show. It's going to be a brief rundown, especially when it comes to the forwards here, because there's not really expected to be any changes. David Kampf will not be jumping back into the lineup. Pacioretty will not be playing here today. You're going to run back the same 12 that you had yesterday. No morning skate here today. A 5 o'clock game after a 7 o'clock game last night. Less than 24-hour turnaround into today's game. All of those things basically adding up, meaning, yeah, there's not much info. There's not much changing. So let's take a look at what we did have yesterday and what we're looking at for today's game. And starting over on Daily Faceoff, we're going to see the first line there. Matthew Nyes, Austin Matthews, Mitch Marner. No surprise at all when it comes to that first line sticking together. Calle Jarnkrok, John Tavares, and William Nylander. Look, Bobby McMahon was in that second line left wing role. He's a guy that I talked about being very versatile and having played himself into solidifying a spot on that second line. He got moved, and I honestly think that more of that move came out of trying to get the third line going. And last night against Montreal, I was lucky enough to be in the building, and every time they were on the ice, it felt like that third line just really stood out. They were making things happen. They looked like they had a little bit of spark in them. Felt like they played most of their time in the offensive zone. They were physical. Domi had to fight. Nick Robertson is leveling guys in the corner. They were very involved physically on the forecheck. They did some good things offensively. Weren't rewarded for it with the goal, but I mean, in a 1-0 overtime win, it's not like anybody really was just being handed out cookies last night. So that's kind of where it felt like, hey, they're going to try to get McMahon down there and try to get that line going. And then we see in a game like last night, yeah, it looks like it worked out. Is Calle Jarnkrok the best option on that second line? Probably not, but guess what? There's a guy waiting in the rafters named Max Pacioretty that I think is going to slot in pretty nicely alongside JT and Nylander as we move forward. Your fourth line tonight, Pontus Holmberg, Scott Laughton, Steven Lorentz. Laughton, to me, still lacking a little bit of what you kind of had expected him to be able to bring over from Philly to Toronto. I don't know if he's just in a culture shock or what's going on here with Lots, but it feels like he's got a lot more to offer, a lot more to bring to the table. I did think he looked better last night against Montreal. He's had some spurts here and there, or games here and there, I guess maybe we should say, where at times it looks like he's going to be very effective or is very effective, and then at times it just drops off and he becomes in the mix again. He's not a guy who's been a detriment, in my opinion, But he has had times where he just blends in and you don't even notice him. So those are your forward lines for tonight's game. Before we get to what we have for the defensive units for tonight, we're getting closer and closer to the playoffs here. And I do want to take a second to remind everybody on the channel that playoff fever is hitting hard, and the Leafs Nation is your one-stop shop for live updates, top-notch analysis, and the full rundown on the ice and beyond. Follow us on social. Pop over to Leafs Nation 401 and catch our exclusive YouTube content, Spotify, Apple Podcasts, wherever you get your content. That's where you can find it. If you're feeling that team spirit, our brand new playoff merch at nationgear.ca is ready for you. Let's make it happen. And, I'm not wearing it right now, unfortunately. I think I wore it every single day this week since receiving the playoff merch. I wore it yesterday. The only reason I'm not today, it's Masters Day, and, we've got some golf stuff going on personally. But otherwise, I would be wearing the Now We Go playoff merch. It's really comfortable. It looks good. Rosie, Alberga, myself, Vic, we all had a hand in helping get this stuff designed. We like it. It's got something unique to us. It's fun. We can get involved here as a group right here on the Leafs Nation YouTube channel. So make sure to head on over there. Let's get back to it. Let's get to what we have for our defensive units for tonight's game against Carolina, or this afternoon or this evening, or whatever way you'd like to best put it. Regardless, sticking together with Morgan Riley, Brandon Carlo, Simon Benoit, and Chris Tanev stay together on that second pair. And then down to your third pair, you're going to get Dakota Mermis jumping in here for the first time this season, and he's going to play alongside Philippe Myers. Look, if you're Dakota Mermis, basically all that I think you're going to be asked of and all that I would expect of him is play simple. Don't try to do anything that you are outside of your means here. Like, let's just play the Dakota Mermis style of hockey. Let's keep it simple. Probably going to have his minutes limited. This defensive group played really well last night, shorthanded. I mean, who's to say that they can't do it again? So, not really worried, but no McCabe, no OEL. Dakota Mermis is your emergency recall. You had to play one game shorthanded. Last night was that game. Those are your forward and defensive lines for tonight. Obviously, here we're going to stick with the same power plays that we had. No OEL, which means Nick Robertson remains on the point on that second unit and 5-forward unit on the first power play. For goaltending today, starting goalies expected for Carolina is Frederik Andersen, unconfirmed as of right now. Confirmed for the Maple Leafs, which we all knew and expected at that point, especially after last night's game for Anthony Stolarz. You're not going to play him on the back-to-back. No rest, travel, what's the point? You're getting ready for playoffs. That's what's most important. Joseph Woll starts tonight for the Toronto Maple Leafs. Now, let's get to what we have for our best bet for tonight's game. We lost last night, but we are still up on the season, $859, a profit of 8.59 units. Let's head on over for our best bet to our friends at Bet365. And breaking news coming in from Bet365, where every nail-biting overtime win is a barn burner. Every face-off, hat trick, power play, shot on goal, penalty shot, and every suspenseful minute in between is amazing. Whatever the moment, it's never ordinary at Bet365, an official partner of the NHL. Download the Bet365 app and use the code NATION, NATION, to get in on the game. Must be 19 or older. Please play responsibly. If you or someone you know has a gambling problem, visit connectsontario.ca. So, our best bet for today, just going to be very honest about this. It was harder to find something really, really enticing in this game here tonight. So I thought, you know what? We've got a few games left. We are up units. We are profitable on this year. As long as we're not going to go ridiculous and, gamble not responsibly, which we should not be doing. We should be following bankroll management, following along with the units here on the show. We're trying to break this thing out. Keep it consistent, keep it responsible throughout the season, manage that bankroll appropriately given the odds that we're betting and how often we're betting, etc. I figured, you know what? Let's have some fun. Let's take some longer shots. Let's see if we can hit something here. We'll bet some smaller units on these, and just through the final last few games here of the season before we get to the playoffs, let's see if we can, make something happen, make some magic happen on taking a swing and trying to hit a home run. So that's what we're going to do today. Go over to your player props section in the Leafs-Carolina game. We're going to go down to a former Carolina Hurricane. It's where he started his career. He came through the minors. He played in the NHL team for a couple of years before going to the Florida Panthers, winning a Stanley Cup, and then joining your Toronto Maple Leafs. You're going to find Steven Lorentz plus 1,200 tonight, playing his former team, a couple of years ago, but regardless, somewhere that he once did start. He's having a good year so far with the Toronto Maple Leafs. He's got the passion, he's got the energy, the excitement. I feel like tonight's a night back to Carolina here. Maybe a sleepier game. You need the fourth line involved. Lawton steps up. Lawton has a good game. Lorentz has a good game. They benefit off of it. One of the two of them buries. I'm going to bet it's Steven Lorentz here tonight. $20. A fifth of a unit will profit you $240 on the night. So if this one loses, yeah, it's going to suck. We're going to lose that $20. But if it wins, we're home run hunting for this one. So let's get that one. Plus 1,200, Steven Lorentz, anytime goal. That is tonight's best bet. If you did enjoy this video, make sure to hit that like button. Subscribe here to the channel. Leaf Station 401 right here on YouTube. Turn on notifications so you don't miss anything. I will be live following tonight's game, this evening's game, around 7:45 Eastern time to react to the Leafs Carolina Hurricanes game. We will be breaking it all down with callers, talking about the best bet, what went right, what went wrong, and hopefully talking about clinching first place in the Atlantic Division. Thank you all for watching. Hit that like button. Drop your predictions below. We'll see you guys after the game. Until then, keep believing. For more content just like this, including game previews, post-game live shows, Leafs Morning Take Monday through Friday with Nick Alberga and Jay Rosehill with special guests, as well as instant reaction videos, make sure to be subscribed here to the Leafs Nation YouTube channel. Turn on notifications so you don't miss anything, and drop a like.